Hi, I'm Dr. Akash Vedpathak. I've been working as a small animal general practitioner in Mumbai since the past 10 to 12 years. Recently in my life, I have moved to a specialization where I look at ophthalmology, which is basically the care of eyes for animals.
What subtle changes in your pet's behavior signal the start of vision loss?
So, a lot of times we see pets, especially dogs, show subtle signs of vision loss when problems that affect their vision start happening. This could be something as simple as them not wanting to go out for a walk in the night or when it is dark outside. They may walk along walls, they may change their behavior with regards to their playtime and may not be able to find their food bowl or their water bowl. These are concerning signs that should be looked at by a vet. With regards to vision loss, I guess the most obvious symptom would be if your pet is banging into things or they run into a wall or they run into the furniture at home. That's definitely a sign that your pet should get examined by a doctor.
How do conditions like cataracts, glaucoma, or diabetes silently damage eyesight?
So, with regards to cataracts, I think most pet parents, when they observe their pet's eyes, they can see this sort of a whitish change that is happening in the color of the eye itself. So, most people will pick that up and sometimes flag that with their doctors. But other conditions, like, say, glaucoma, which is where the pressure in the eye starts to increase, there can be times when that could be missed out in a routine check. I think this is where specialist care comes into play, where you do want to get routine checks and have these things looked at, especially if your pet is showing the signs that we discussed above. A few lesser known conditions where the eyes can be affected and the patient can actually lose their vision would be things like hypertension. So older cats are really prone to their blood pressure being high, and that can in turn lead to retinal changes leading to blindness. Also, very common infectious diseases like tick fever can be a big threat to the vision of the patient.
Can blindness in pets happen suddenly, and what emergencies cause it?
So, blindness in pets can happen suddenly. This can range from a variety of problems, like if they had some injury or trauma to the eye. Sometimes, we can't really obviously follow our pets all day and they may hurt themselves somewhere at home or when they're playing or get hit by a ball, etc. There are other conditions, like we said, things like hypertension, things like retinal disease. These are changes that can happen quite suddenly. Sometimes these conditions may not be a very sudden change, but oftentimes dogs and cats are able to mask their diseases pretty well. What happens is that they will continue to function as normal even though their eyesight is getting lesser, but they reach a point where at some point it just crosses a certain threshold and they are not able to see anything. This is when we are able to notice that there is a problem. So looking out for those subtle changes does tend to help us catch these problems early on and obviously then treat them a little bit better.
Why do some eye problems get mistaken for normal aging and end up being ignored?
So I would say that probably the most common age-related problem that we would see in our pets would be cataracts. I think there's a common misbelief that cataracts in pets cannot be treated. In contrary to that, cataract surgery in pets can be quite successful, and we are able to give vision back to these pets, who've been struggling to see things and live a normal quality of life. So I think whenever we see these problems, it's important to at least have it looked at by a vet and explore the options that are now available for our pets, in a similar capacity as people as well.
What modern treatments can slow or even reverse certain causes of blindness?
So unfortunately, there are not a lot of sort of magic treatments available for us to treat eye problems specifically. Uh, with regards to cataracts and retinal disease, a lot of problems do tend to be genetic in nature or breed associated. So completely avoiding them can be a challenge. But in saying that, I think routine checks with your doctor and sort of more of a preventive care approach, like we said earlier, can help you catch these problems early and then treat them a little bit better. With regards to your brachycephalic dogs, your shih tzus and pugs that we talk about constantly, keeping their corneal health in check and maintaining, good sort of corneal health does help you actually retain their vision in the long run. I have seen a lot of patients in their old age have developed such severe corneal disease that vision is compromised in that situation. These patients can benefit significantly from very basic, eye drops that treat their dry eye at a younger age and prevent these things from happening in the future.
What role does daily care, diet, grooming, environment, etc., play in protecting vision?
That's a great question. So, with regards to diet, I think there's an important understanding that we need to have about our pets. So, pets are not people with regards to their diets. They have certain specific requirements for the nutrients that they need to thrive and do well. This holds especially true for cats. So, cats is what we call obligate carnivores. So, they don't generate certain amino acids in their body, which basically means that if we don't provide this in their diet, they become deficient for it. There is a very common condition in cats where they get a deficiency of something called taurine. This is found in their natural diet. If we are not feeding that to them, then they can have retinal disease that can actually cause blindness as well. So that's a good example of how important the diet can be. I think pet parents should always consult their doctors before considering a change in their diet or wanting to feed things like home food, because you definitely want to include certain supplements to make sure that these deficiencies don't happen to your pet. With regards to grooming, I think, maintaining proper hygiene around the face, getting hair trims for dogs who have long hair around their eyes, etc., does become important in preventing, irritation and also sometimes injury to the eyes associated with these areas.
How do blind pets adapt, and what can owners do to give them a safe full life?
We end up seeing a lot of dogs and cats who really surprise us with how well they do, even if they can't see very well. I think this is attributed to the fact that their sense of hearing and their sense of smell is so keen that they adapt very quickly to that change. So, as long as your pet does not have a painful condition like glaucoma or other conditions that may possibly need surgery to reduce that or get rid of that pain, even if they cannot see, I think these patients can live a very full and very good quality of life. I think a few things that we recommend our pet parents to do to help these patients as such would be to try and keep their environment as safe and static as possible. This basically means not moving furniture around too much, not having new obstacles that they would face. And we find that in a matter of sometimes a few days, these pets can map out the entire house and move around fairly freely. I have pet parents who send me videos of their blind pets, jumping on and off the bed, playing with their toys, and being really happy about just being pain free. So I think it's definitely possible for them to live a good quality life even if they can't see. So thank you for this opportunity. This has been a real pleasure for me to answer these questions and solve the doubts that a lot of people have regarding their pets' eyes and their eyesight. It's really important that we sort of support our pets to live the best life that they can. This involves us doing our regular checks with our general veterinarians also. But we talked about a few problems with their eyesight and their eye health in particular, and we definitely have the support system now available that we can provide specialist care for our pets as well. So great, thank you.